Hey guys, Sean here. Today I'll be profiling my Marincess deck. Marincess is a super cool deck. It's very budget, but it's very strong. It can fit so much non-engine in it, so it's always a good rogue deck in pretty much any format. This is a pretty standard build, but it's very strong. So let's get into it. First up, we have 3 copies of Marincess Blue Tang, one of your best starters in the deck. On summon, it Foolish Burial is a Marincess monster, and if you use Link material, you excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and you can add 1 excavated Marincess card from your deck to your hand, and then shuffle the rest into the deck. So 100% your best starter. You can send something like a Pascalus or Mandarin to extend your combos, or you can send a Basilalima to protect your Marincess monsters. So your best starter of the deck. We run so many starters, but this is definitely your best one. Next up, 3 copies of your Springirl. You can banish a Marincess monster from your graveyard to special summon this, and then if it's sent to the graveyard as Link material, you can mill the top cards of your deck up to the number of Marincess cards you control, and then you can burn your opponent for 200 for any Marincess card you mill. So it's not very reliable, but it can get a little bit of burn your opponent. Can be a way to win in time, but it's mainly used to be an extender. It can also be a 1-card combo, but banishing from the graveyard also has applications with some other cards, so of course 3 copies. Next up, triple Pascalus. When it's summoned, you can special summon a Marincess monster from your hand, and if it's in the graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it, add a Marincess spell trap from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a great starter, great extender, and it can help you in the grind game to get some of your spell traps back, so definitely a 3 of. Next up, triple Sea Horse. It can special summon itself to a zone a Link monster points to. Also during the main phase, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it from the grave to special summon a water monster from your hand to a zone a Link monster points to. So again, a great 1-card combo and an extender. That's it for the main 1-card combos, but we have more Marincess monsters here. We have double Marincess Mandarin and 1 Marincess Basilalima. If Mandarin is in the grave or your hand and you control 2 Marincess monsters, you can special summon this to a zone a Link monster points to, but then banish it when it leaves the field. So it's a generic extender. It is not a 1-card combo, but it's still pretty good. You can mill this off of your Blue Tang to extend that way, and also when it gets banished, that can trigger the effects of some of your other Marincess monsters in the extra deck. And then Basilalima, you can banish this from the graveyard to protect one of your Marincess monsters from being destroyed. So very good against decks like Snake Eye, because if they use something like a Promethean Princess to try and pop one of your Marincess monsters, you can use this to protect. And also when it's banished, you can boost one of your Marincess monsters by 600. And again, some of your Marincess monsters benefit when a card is banished, so 1 copy is very nice. So that's it for your main deck Marincess monsters. Now we have some hand traps. We have triple Ash Blossom, we have triple Nibiru, we have triple Veiler, and we have Imperm as well. So this deck can fit in a bunch of non-engine, which is fantastic. That's one of the main reasons you play this deck, because its engine is very small, it's full of 1-card combos, so you fill the deck with a bunch of hand traps. These hand traps are pretty generic, they're just good in the meta. Of course you can replace them with whatever you like. We have 12 hand traps in this deck, including the Imperm later on. So I think this is pretty good, but you can add more if you want to take out some other non-engine. But I think this hand trap ratio is perfectly fine. Next up for the spells, we have 1 copy of Marincess Battle Ocean and 2 copies of Marincess Dive. I don't have the second copy, but it's pretty mandatory. You can get away with playing 1, but for the grind game, you really want the second one. Battle Ocean is very good, it can help you chain block. When a Marincess Link monster is special summoned from your extra deck, you can equip Marincess Link monsters from your graveyard to it, and then it gains 600 attack for each equipped monster. It also gives a flat 200 boost to your Marincess monsters. It also synergizes with your Marincess Crystal Heart, but we don't run that in this build, so that's really unnecessary. But 1 copy is perfectly fine, we can search it as part of a combo. Marincess Dive has 2 effects. The first one is you can target 1 non-Link Marincess monster in your graveyard and special summon it. But the second effect is if you control Battle Ocean, you can special summon a Marincess from your deck. So this is a really good card for the deck. It's just a straight up E-Tele for any Marincess monster. It can even bring stuff back from the graveyard. Next up we have triple Pot of Desires, back at 3, and it's super good in the deck. We run so many 1-card starters, so it doesn't really matter if we banish stuff. It can be a bit risky, you don't want to banish certain things like your Marincess Battle Ocean, but for the most part the +2 is so worth the risk. It's very rare you'll banish anything too important, so it's just a great way to draw into cards, either extenders or into more hand traps. Next up we have triple Forbidden Droplet. Because we have so many 1-card starters, we want to have a bunch of cards left in our hand. So Droplet is a great way to use those cards to interrupt their opponent, to negate their effects, even help you go for game. Just a good board breaker, but you can run anything in this slot if you want. Next up we have double Tactics and 1 Called By. Called By is good because we really want our combos to go off, and Talent's just another good non-engine card. If we get hand trapped, we can draw 2, steal a monster, or look at our opponent's hand. We have 1 Marincess Wave. which is basically a Imperm if we control a Marincess Link. If we control a Link 2 or higher, we can activate this from the hand, and if we control a Link 3 or higher, all our Marincess monsters are unaffected by our opponent's card effects until the end of the turn. So fantastic card in the deck. We can recycle it as well, we can search it as part of our main combo. Fantastic card in the deck, probably one of the best cards in the deck. And finally, the triple Imperm, because it's another good hand trap. So that's 12 hand traps and 5 board breakers, but you can mess around with the ratios all you like. For the extra deck, we have 2 copies of your blue Slug. We have 2 Link 1s in the deck. We have blue Slug and we have Sea Angel. They both need 1 level 4 lower Marincess monster. When blue Slug is summoned, you can target a Marincess monster in your graveyard to add it back to your hand. So if it's something like a Sea Angel, you can special summon it and then extend your combo. You can even add back something that was sent by the effect of your blue Tang. So 2 copies is perfectly fine. We have 2 copies of your Sea Angel. Again, needs 1 level 4 lower Marincess. And when a special summon, you can add 1 Marincess spell from your deck to your hand. Most of the time you'll be adding your Marincess Battle Ocean, but you can also add your Marincess Dive, so 2 copies is very good. Next up, 2 copies of your Marincess Coral Anemone. The Link 2 just needs 2 water monsters. You can target a water monster in your graveyard with 1500 less attack to special summon it to a zone she points to. And if it's sent to grave, you can target a Marincess card in your graveyard to add it back to your hand. So a fantastic extender. It can get you back resources during your turn and your opponent's turn, because usually you'll be equipping this to something like your Marincess Aqua Argonaut. So 2 copies is essential. Next up, 1 copy of Coral Triangle. If you send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard, you can add a Marincess Trap from your deck to your hand, which will be your Marincess Wave. Also, if it's in the graveyard and if only your opponent controls monsters, you can banish this from the graveyard to special summon Marincess Link monsters from your graveyard, whose Link ratings equal 3. So very good for getting it back into the game if your opponent breaks your board. So 1 copy is all we need. Next up, 1 copy of Marbled Rock. This can add back any Marincess card from your grave to your hand. And if your opponent's monster attacks, it can protect your monsters from being destroyed. So 1 copy is very nice, at the very least for getting a card back from the graveyard. For the Link 4s, we have 1 Marincess Great Bubble Reef, and we have 1 Marincess Aqua Argonaut. Great Bubble Reef is able to get its attack very high, because every time a monster is banished, you can gain 600 attack. Also, during the standby phase, you can banish a water monster from your graveyard to draw a card. And finally, you can send a water monster from your hand to the grave to special summon a banished Marincess monster from your banish zone. So it's a very strong boss monster. It can get up to very high attack, it can bring stuff back, it can draw you cards. So definitely a really good card in the deck. And then also we have Marincess Aqua Argonaut, which is your spell trap negate. If it's equipped with a Marincess monster, you can special summon that Marincess monster and negate the effect of a spell trap. Also, you can target 1 water monster you control and 1 monster your opponent controls and bounce them back to hand. So again, another really good boss monster. For some more generic stuff, we have 1 Splash Mage and 1 Eria. Splash Mage is just generic to Cyberus monsters, and can special summon a Cyberus monster from the graveyard, but then you're locked into Cyberus monsters. Usually this won't be a big deal, but this can lock you out of certain things in the extra deck, so just keep that in mind. And your Area doesn't really come up too much, but it's just a generic Link 2 you can go into. And if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a water monster from your deck to your hand. For the last link, we have Zealantis, a really good card for breaking boards and for going for OTKs. It just needs 1 Link 4 monster to go into it. You can use this card to banish all cards in the field and then resummon them, which allows you to reposition your Link monsters. And the second effect is, during the battle phase, you can destroy cards in the field up to the number of co-linked monsters. So if you use this effect, you can rearrange your Link monsters on the field so that they're all co-linked, so you can pop a bunch of cards in the field and then OTK from there. Finally, we have Bahamut Shark and Toadally Awesome. Sometimes you can go into an early rank 4, so you can get a Toadally Awesome which protects you from Nibiru or any hand trap, and it's just a really good Omni Negate for this deck to end on. So that's it for my Marincess deck profile. Overall, this deck is very good, especially because it has so many 1-card starters, and you can fill the deck with a bunch of non-engine, some very powerful hand traps, and some board breakers. The deck is very budget as well, which is very important to consider. The most expensive card in the deck is Marincess Dive, but that's not even too bad. You can definitely build the core of this deck for under about €50. The combos are very simple to learn, there's nothing too crazy. You're mainly going to go for your 1-card combos and just protect yourself with a bunch of defensive hand traps and stuff like that. So one of the best decks to get into Yu-Gi-Oh with. So thanks for watching, let me know what you think in the comments, and stay tuned for more Marincess content.